Hello, and my name is Dan Jones, and I would like to welcome you to my webinar. So today we are going to focus on hiring a team that will help you propel your business to phenomenal heights. We're going to talk a little bit about things that I did a number of years ago and practices that I kept refining and improving so that I was able to build my team with people that were dedicated as much as I was to the growth and success of the company. We are live on YouTube, and also we are doing this through Zoom for members of my group called the Landscaping Business Growth Hub. If you are looking for a Facebook group that can give you information regularly to help you grow your business, it could be pricing, it could be marketing, it could be determining your expenses, and optimizing your business so that you grow, optimize, and succeed, then the Landscaping Business Growth Hub is for you. You can find it on Facebook. The link is also available in the bio page of this YouTube. And once this live is completed, if you come back and view it, there will be a link to it in the comment section. So I would like to welcome everybody. It's Tuesday, the 11th of March, and it is 4 p.m. It's now 4:01. And we will open the floor to questions that people may have, and also any chats that are put in here. Um, you can, I will try and respond to them as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So um, there will be a free worksheet that anybody can have in to help you determine your ideal employee. All you need to do is drop the word avatar in the comment section, and when this is over, I will make sure that I get it to you. Um, so that's where we're at with that. So let's go ahead and get started. So um, I have over 20 years experience in the landscaping and hardscaping industry. When I started out, it was just me. And when I did need help, I had some temporary people that I would use occasionally for this job or that job, but I had no permanent employees. Once I grew to a point where I couldn't keep up with the work by myself between doing the estimating and doing the work, that's when I started to take on my first team member. What problems was I encountering? Uh, it was wait 1 second here. Okay. Um, I had a wide range of problems, right? I had people that they either wouldn't show up for work, or they'd show up but they were late, or they didn't care about the quality doing it the way I wanted, or they wanted to tell me that they knew a better way to do it. And I'll grant that there were some people that I hired very early on that probably had 2 to 3 times as much experience as I did in the landscaping business. They understood, maybe better ways to do things, but there was a quality issue that I was always concerned about, things that I saw with other landscaping companies that I didn't want to repeat. So I had a very set way that I would do work. And I expected the people that were working for me to do it the way that I wanted. Now, does that mean that I wasn't open to suggestions? No, I would listen. And sometimes people would come up with things and I'd be like, okay, well, that's worth giving it a try. Let's do it. However, I wanted to make sure that that decision was made with me involved and not have a team member that just thought, well, I know better than Dan. I'm going to do it my way. Right. So this was a perpetual problem I had on top of the people that wouldn't show up or would show up late. Um, it was frustrating. And probably the first 2 years of my business, it was just I couldn't find anybody that I could rely on. And it makes it very difficult. And I'm sure that some of you that are viewing this would understand this, makes it very difficult to get out there and do the other parts that are about working on your business when you constantly have to be in the business, making sure that people are doing things the way that you want or showing up. I had 3 core values for my company. They were quality, reliability, and knowledge. And so I wanted quality work, right? I wanted to be known as reliable, and I wanted to be knowledgeable and be able to pass that knowledge on to my customers so that they would trust me, right? But also, my goal wasn't to have more problems on their yard so that I could make money fixing them. My goal was to stem off problems, right? And then I would make money by recurring work because I was knowledgeable enough to go, hey, you've got an issue. Let's get ahead of this, right? That way, when I did have to upsell them on something, they were more inclined to listen to me because I was speaking to them, on the truth and from a position of knowledge in a position of authority. But I couldn't get out there and build that client base the way I really wanted. I couldn't focus on the things that, would improve the efficiency of the business because I thought, I'd wake up in the morning and I thought, okay, I got two guys, they're going to come in, they're going to take care of these properties. I can check in on them, but I can also go do these four bids, plus go see if I can make an arrangement with a supplier for better pricing. And then all of a sudden somebody wouldn't show up, and now I find myself out mowing for the day, right? And after a couple of years of that, I pulled my hair out, so many times. And I can remember one time coming home, and I mean, I was covered head to toe in dirt. I'd been digging, I'd been planting, and then we went and mowed some lawns, and then, we had to help somebody with another issue, a drainage that they were having in their yard. And I was just so frustrated, and I'm covered in dirt, and I go in and I'm taking a shower and I'm just standing in there trying to wash it all off and just wash away the disgust that I felt. And I'm like, this is not working. There has got to be a better way to do this. And it's not the first time I had thought that, but this time I was like, you know what? I'm tired of saying this isn't working and then not doing anything to fix it. So how can I fix it? And so it was a Friday, and I knew I had the weekend ahead of me. And I said, I am going to focus this weekend on just seeing if I can't come up with a way to make this better. And about halfway through the shower, one thought that occurred to me, almost like a voice in the back of my head, was I'd worked up a list of the qualities and attributes that were signified who was my ideal client, who was my ideal customer. But I had not ever sat down and said, what does my ideal employee or team member look like? And I was like, maybe it would be a good idea for me to do that because there's apparently something wrong in my hiring process, right? I thought I was asking all the right questions, but I was still getting duds one after the other. So after I got all cleaned up and ate dinner and played with my kids and stuff, I went back to my office and I sat down and I started to write out all the things that were important to me for a team member. Now, I didn't get it all done in one night, but I worked on it through that weekend. And I mean, I wrote down everything I could possibly think of. Like, I was tired of getting calls from people, oh, the belt came off the mower deck. Can you come put it back on? Well, I'm 5 miles away. In traffic, it's going to take me 20 minutes to get there. And then once I get there, so now you've lost 20 minutes of work waiting for me. Plus, I've got to stop doing what I'm doing, right? I wanted somebody that was willing to figure it out themselves. Okay. I had even made a video and shared it with my people, right? I'm like, you can easily access this on YouTube. I made it private, but I gave them the link of certain things that if they had this problem, this is how you fix it. And people still wouldn't look it up, right? So I was like, I want somebody that cares enough about the time that they're like, oh, I'm not going to call Dan. I'm going to fix this problem. I wanted people that showed up every day. I wanted people that wanted to show up on time. I wanted people that believed in quality work, but I also wanted somebody that would go, huh, that, area of the yard looks weird. I think that, we should tell Dan about it so that he can talk to the customer. Okay. I wanted people that would be proactive. And I had this long list. It probably took about 2 pages of just things that I wanted fixed. Okay. That I didn't want to deal with. After I'd worked up that list, I sat down and decided to write out a sample ad based on what exactly it was that I was looking for. And it, I wrote the ad, and then I scrapped it, and then I wrote another one, and then I fine-tuned that. And then once I was done with it, I took it to like my dad and some friends, and a couple of people in my family. And I said, look at this and tell me what you think. And they gave me some feedback. And some of the feedback was good, and some of it didn't really fit within what I wanted. But I used the good feedback and I refined that ad. And then I posted it. And I posted it in a couple of places. Back then, Craigslist was an okay place to actually try and find employees. Indeed was not, really that big back then, but there were a couple of other places that I'd posted the ad. And then I promised myself that I was not going to hire the first person that came along. Okay, so let's pause for a minute. This is the number one problem that I see a lot of landscapers and people in the home service industry in general do. When it comes time to hire somebody, they're so desperate, they'll take anybody that they feel might actually be a good fit instead of being willing to go, no, I'll just keep doing the work myself until I find the right person. So the first thing that I want to caution you is do not ever be in such a rush to hire somebody that you hire somebody that's just a terrible fit for your business. Now I understand, we're going into the growing season. You're going to need people. Maybe every person that you hire is not going to be a great fit, but don't be in such a rush that you hire nobody that feels right for your business. Okay. So I went ahead and I made that ad. I started to get responses. I weeded out the responses that weren't acceptable to me. Now, understand at this point, I did have two people that were working full time for me. One of them I was just totally unhappy with. The other one I felt I could deal with for a while. So what I was looking to do was fill the position of the one person that I was pretty convinced was going to talk themselves out of a job very soon. Okay. But I committed that, that's the position I wanted to fill, and I was going to look for the right person. So I only responded positively to the responses I got of people that I considered I would be willing to sit down and talk with. Now, people that, sent me stuff and I wasn't interested in, I would send them a polite note. Sorry, we've, moved on to other people because I figure, you know, nobody should need to wonder whether or not their application was even received or considered, right? So I'm always trying to let people know, hey, I'm sorry, you weren't chosen at this point. Reapply. Um, I found in that ad about four people that I thought might be, a good fit, but I wanted to talk to them. So after I had determined that, I reached out to those people and set appointments with each of them. I talked to them a few minutes on the phone just to kind of get a feel. And then I set the appointment. Now, out of those four people that responded, only three of them actually showed up. Now, let me tell you something. I had a terrible, terrible rate prior to that with people showing up for appointments. I could put an ad out. I could get, say, 100 people saying that they wanted the job. I could pick maybe 11 people that I was interested in talking to. Okay. This is prior to me ever writing this ad. This was, under the old system. I could get maybe 11 or 12 people that were interested. I could call them, ask them to come for an appointment. All of them would say that they wanted to, and then only two people would show up. And then out of those two people that would show up, maybe I might hire one, but it was hit or miss whether or not they'd even show up for the first day. I had an absolutely terrible record. Okay. But this time, out of the four people that I thought that were a good fit, or might possibly be a good fit, three of them actually showed up for the interview. I asked my questions. I asked open-ended questions. Now, what do I mean by open-ended questions? I had, talked about the mower belt being something that was important to me. So I could ask a question like, do you know how to put a mower belt back on a deck? And they can give me a yes or a no. But I wanted to know like what their thinking was. So I was like, okay, so this is the way that I've got things set up in the business. There's certain things that happen regular enough that I've created videos for them. One of them is the mower deck. The belt will come off sometimes, and it can be a little bit of a challenge, for some people to get that belt on there. So I'd created a video with a step-by-step process how to get there. So, tell me, you're out on a job, the belt comes off the mower deck. Um, what are you gonna? You can't mow without it. What are you gonna do? Now, of course, we know that they're going to say they're going to try and put the belt back on the mower deck. Hopefully, they're going to say that they're going to look at the video. But what I wanted to hear was, in general, like, will they call me and just let me know, hey, got slowed down, but I got the belt back on and we're going to get back on track, or just, oh, I'd look at the video, and if I can't figure it out, then I'd call you. I wanted just to kind of have, an open-ended conversation about how I try and deal with problems and see if they deal with it the same way or if they're open to it, right? Here's number 2 point I want to make. When you are interviewing somebody for a job, when you hire somebody for a job, when you start to onboard a person for a job, and when you are working with that person in their job, it is important for you to remember that it's a two-way street. Yes, you are the employer. Yes, you set, the guidelines and the goals and the expectations for that person. And with that, you agree to pay them a set amount of money for their time. But at the same time, they're agreeing to give you their time and whatever experience and knowledge they have in exchange for that money. My point here being that you should understand that, this is a back and forth, a two-way street relationship. And so when you are looking to hire somebody, you want to be very clear about what you hope, but you also need to respect that, you know, um, that they have needs or that they have goals. And how they view the job may be entirely different than you. Okay, so a conversation, a respectful conversation, two-way about your expectations and learning theirs, and hopefully they're open enough to be able to tell you theirs, without you having to dig too hard. But you want to have that understanding, and it's going to build trust. So if you hire this person on, you now have the beginnings of trust, which is so important to the growth of your business. Okay. So I want to pause for a minute and see if there's anybody that has any questions on either of the platforms. They're welcome to on YouTube. Go ahead and put it into chat. If you're here in the Zoom meeting, you can go ahead and put it in the chat also, and I'll unmute. So we'll give that a moment if need be. No, not seeing any questions yet. Okay, I'll keep an eye on it though, and if there are, I'll deal with them when we get to the next point. So, oh, excuse me. So what I did was I identified who my ideal employee was. Okay. Just like I've got an ideal client, I identified who my ideal employee was. I wrote an ad about that. And now we're going to talk a little bit about that ad when you write the ad. What type of ad are you going to write? Okay. I want to give you a couple of examples. Um, let me see if I can. I'm sorry, bear with me a second. I'm sure I was trying to find, I had a sample question, but I guess I'm just going to have to recall it from the top of my head. Um, okay, XYZ mowing company now looking for, employees that have, skills in mowing, edging, weed eating, and blowing, pay rate $19 an hour, apply if interested. Eh, right. But what if you were to change it to, you know, uh, Premier Lawns, is a growing landscaping company dedicated to quality and reliability for all its customers. We promote from within, and we're looking for our next team member to help us grow our team. that seems a little bit more like it's not just what you want, but it's talking about what your vision is. Okay. And understand, I'm just pulling this one off the top of my head, but it talks a little bit about your vision. And it also talks about the openings that people might have within your business, right? Not everybody wants to come work for your business and one day be the operations manager. Some people just want to come and all they want to do is be the weed eater and the edger. That's it. That's it. But other people have aspirations. And so if you've got in there that, you promote from within and that you're growing, these are words that might be very important to people that are looking to, have opportunities. Okay, so you want to position your ad in such a way. So I made my ad very, like it, I sold the company, right? Because I wanted people that were going to come and be a part of my team. Okay, I didn't want somebody that's just going to mow. I wanted somebody that was going to see problems and look for solutions. I wanted somebody that would tell me, hey, I think there's a better way that we can do this. I was thinking about it and respect the process. When I started sharing processes with my team, I wanted a team that would go, hey, this is good, but it could be better if we did this. Or, hey, we've got an extra step in here that we just don't need, right? Those are the types of people I wanted. And these are the types of people I want to encourage you to have. Okay. You need to be open. We talked about this in the leadership a couple of weeks ago. You need to be open to hearing other ideas. Okay. And you want to encourage the people that are working with you, that are your team, to be a part of that team and give some of those ideas also. Okay. So now you've hired somebody. Now, out of those 4 people, 3 people showed up. I hired one to fill that position with the guy who I was pretty sure was going to talk himself out of a job very soon. And he did. Okay. I hired that person before that the other guy had left. So I took a little bit of a hit on my payroll for about a week and a half, but the new person outshined this guy so much that guy just, he quit. He's like, oh, I don't want to work here, right? Okay. So now I hired somebody. What am I going to do? Well, I onboarded him. And that was the next thing that I started thinking about after I'd gotten all the ad written and started going through, interviewing people. Um, 1 second, I'm sorry. Let me uh, okay. Um, so I started thinking about how am I going to make this person a part of the team? And that's onboarding, right? What do I want to do when they show up? I wanted to have a process in place. So I had told the other person that was working that I was pretty happy with, look, I'm bringing a new guy on. I want to try something new to build a better team, and I'm hoping that you'll help me. So what I want to do is just make him like attached to you at the hip for the first couple of days. He's going to come in. I'm going to talk with him. I'm going to, give him some information, and have him fill out the paperwork. And then I want to introduce him to you. And I want you to show him everything you do, every process for like getting loaded up in the morning, how you figure out where the first job is, what you do when you get there, and just keep working with him on that. And I'll check in, I promise you, 4 or 5 times a day to see how he's doing, and also, just to check on everybody. And my guy was agreeable to that. And then I made a point of at the end of the first day talking to this new hire. How was it? What did you think? What did you like? What do you, do you have any concerns? And listen to them, and say, well, we were very happy with your work. We encourage you to come back tomorrow and let's see how it goes. That guy ended up working for me for 2 years before he went off on his own to start his own lawn mowing business a couple miles north of outside of, my work area. Um, he wasn't the greatest, but he was far better than anybody I'd had up to that point. Here's the other thing though. The guy that I assigned to him, he stayed with me for a total of 3 years after that point. Okay. And he actually became a better team member, so much so that every time somebody would come in, I gave them to him to train. And this is why he stayed with me, because he felt like he had more responsibility. He felt like he had, value to the business. And he did have value because he was really, really good at teaching people how Dan wants things done, you know. And he even had like a little shtick down as people would come in. He'd be like, I don't know how you did it wherever you were, but there's our way. And that's how Dan wants it, and it works. So just trust it, forget everything you knew. And so, in the process of me defining a better team member for me, I actually managed to improve one of the ones that I had. Okay. So, this is what I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you as you go into this growing season to not just look for anybody that comes along. Now, look, if you've got like 5 positions and you don't have time to get all 5 of them filled with what I'm talking about, at least fill one and try and fill a second. And then really, not at the expense of your other people, the other 3 you might hire, but really focus on these 2 people and bring them along. Okay. Now, I have talked about turning a caterpillar into a butterfly. And turning a caterpillar into butter is not what we want to do. Turning a caterpillar into a butterfly. So I'm going to tell you a story of somebody that came to work for me many, many years ago. I used to hang flyers every day of the year that we were working. Didn't matter if it was the winter, didn't matter if it was the summer, spring, fall, we did flyers. But I was in Florida, right? So you pretty much could pick up work year round if you were careful about it. I did flyers all the time, okay, door hangers, and hung them up in neighborhoods to grow my route density. And um, I had somebody that came and worked for me that was fantastic at doing it. And when I say fantastic, the first thing is he wasn't the type of guy that would take his 400 flyers, 500 flyers for those couple of hours that I was paying him for and then just throw them away and go home. He actually did everything. He hung the flyers, he marked the streets that he put them on. If he finished off that map, he'd tell me he needed another map the next day, or, hey, I'm going to finish off this map midway through tomorrow. So if you can have another map when I come in the morning to grab my flyers, I'll start on that as soon as I'm done with this. He was great. He was phenomenal. But I'd picked up so much work that I just couldn't keep ahead. And we were falling behind on some cleanup jobs and small landscaping jobs. So I'd said to him, I said, hey, when you're done doing your flyers, because he only would work 3 to 4 hours every day doing that. It's too much to have somebody do that 8 hours a day. I said, look, when you're done doing your flyers, because I didn't want him to not do the thing that was generating us money, right? But I was shorthanded. So do the thing that's generating us money, do those flyers. When you're done with it, would you like to make some extra money helping out on one of the cleanup crews? And he said, well, how much? And I'm like, well, it's about, X number of dollars more than what you're making right now. He's like, yeah, I'd do that. So when he was done, I had given him an address and told him where to meet the crew. And he met the crew out there. Excuse me a second. Let me just. Uh, Sorry about that. I don't know if that bird was able to be heard by y'all. Um, so when he was done, I gave him an address, told him where to go out to, and meet the crew. And he did. And he did a great job. I mean, the crew leader was just thrilled with the work he'd done. So a couple days later, we were behind again. And I said, you want to do the same thing? And he said, sure. So he did great again. And I'd asked him, I said, are you interested in maybe moving to this job? Which was a really risky proposition for me. And I'll tell you why, because I'd never had anybody so good at flyers as this guy was. I mean, I got more calls from him than I'd ever gotten from anybody else. But at the same time, he was a workhorse. He was dedicated, on the cleanup and landscaping side. And I saw something in him, and I'm like, oh. So I asked him if he wanted to go into the cleanup and landscaping crew, and he said, yeah. So I did. I put him over there. I found somebody else to do flyers. They weren't that good. Found somebody else. Eventually I found somebody that was passable to keep doing that. But he he really did good on the cleanup and landscaping crew. And, we did a lot of sod, right? So I could see that, he wanted to learn more. So I dedicated to spending a couple of days each week over the period of 2 months with him, showing him how to do, big sod jobs the way that I wanted, right? And to help me refine the process so to make it more profitable. And so he and I did that. And when we were done, I turned all the sod operations over to him. Everything that we were doing sod, I gave him a crew and made him responsible for it. And he did that for a couple of years. And then I started to get into irrigation. And once I'd gotten into that a little bit more, because I used to sub it out and then I took it in-house, I had my irrigation guys teach him a little bit more about that. So he learned that. And then I threw him over on the mowing operation side of the business for, a couple days here and there to learn that. And eventually he became my right hand. Okay. And he worked with me for a long time, and he was a great guy, and he would give me advice, and he and I would fight sometimes because we didn't always agree, but he always gave me honest, solid advice. Okay. So this is a guy that started at a part-time job doing flyers and eventually pretty much ran the day-to-day operation side of the business while I was in charge of the whole business, right? The sales side, the office, everything else. One day, he and I are at a job, and his father happened to have been there. And this guy was very frustrated with some of the people that we'd had working for us. And he was like, no matter what I tell them, they can't listen, and da 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 da. And his father said to him, he goes, son, he goes, when you started with Dan, he said, did you know all this stuff? And his son's like, no, and he said, but bit by bit, you learned it. And did you mess things up? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, and how did Dan treat you? And he goes, well, he'd show me where I did things wrong and just tell me not to make the same mistake over and over again. And his father said to him, he goes, that's right. He said, he took a caterpillar, that was you, and turned you into a butterfly. And look at you now, you run, pretty much all the operations. And that is how you build a team. And that's what I had done, right? I didn't just stop with him. There were other people in my organization that I mentored, and I encouraged other people in my business to mentor somebody else. And this was a concept I learned in the Army. I had a wonderful, wonderful immediate supervisor, sergeant. And his name was Sergeant Alfred. And he had told me that my job, this was like as soon as I got in, fresh out of basic to the unit, he said, your job is to master your job, learn mine, and watch what my boss is doing. And my job is to teach you my job and talk with you about what my boss is doing. And so Sergeant Alfred mentored me and all the people that were immediately reporting to him. And I think that that is the best way to build a team. Okay. It has been the most effective way for me. And I encourage you also to do the same. So again, I want to open the floor, see if there's any questions, if anybody has anything. Okay. Well, folks, that is basically what I've got for this week. You are more than welcome to always, message me with questions. The website is on the bio section for my YouTube page here, and you can contact me there if you have questions. The link for the Landscape Business Growth Hub, which is a free Facebook group and resource for anybody who is looking for help with pricing, marketing, employees, leadership. The goal is to help you grow your business, optimize it, and succeed. And as well, if you are looking for mentorship one-on-one for someone to set a goal with you over a 12-month period and work closely with you to help you grow your business to be successful, then you may reach out to me or apply for it through the link in the bio section as well. And I want to thank everybody for their time today. And I appreciate you placing your trust in me to give you some information on how to build a team. You take care, and I'll see you all next week. For our next webinar, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a webinar, and you can find out what it is if you go to the Jones Business Management and Growth Consultant Facebook page. It's listed on there, usually